Hi, my name's Ashlyn Crow, and my partner and I, Mariah Smith, did our research project on teachers' perceptions of inclusion.
We're going to start with the background of the study and just how the study originated, the research question, and the importance of it in the classroom. So both of us are elementary teachers. One of us teaches special ed, and the other one is a general education teacher. And we are both affected by inclusion every day in the classroom, as are our coworkers. And it seems to be a big topic on if we are equipped to implement inclusion effectively in our classrooms. And our research question is, do elementary teachers feel prepared to implement effective inclusion?
So we picked this because the importance of it is that more students are being included in the general education setting than before. And as a special education teacher, I feel very strongly about this, and I know other teachers do as well, that students with disabilities deserve the same educational opportunities as typical students, and they should be included in the gen ed setting as much as possible to ensure that they're getting education in the least restrictive environment. And we picked this study to make sure that that teachers feel prepared to implement effective inclusion services. And based upon our results from this, we wanted to find the support that teachers stated that they needed to better equip them to provide effective inclusion services. So we did a literature review to support and guide us with this study. So we broke our literature down into 5 main categories. So we did inclusion in early childhood setting, inclusion in the elementary setting, pre-service teachers' perspective on inclusion, if there's a difference in preparedness in gen ed versus special ed teachers, and teachers' perspective on low incidence disability. So students with intellectual disabilities that may be in the comprehensive development classroom, or students that may be in the behavior modification classroom. So our first section was on inclusion in early childhood settings. So we used studies from Smith and Smith and Ermatis, and we reviewed these to discuss perceptions on early childhood setting inclusion. So the main factors we found from this section is that teachers expressed that class size need to be considered, classroom support, so the amount of instructional assistance, the amount of time for collaborative planning, and just training in general on students' disabilities and their individual needs, and that general education and special ed and administrators really need to rely on one another to ensure that effective inclusion is being implemented.
The next section was inclusion in the elementary setting, and we used studies from Deason, Shimmer, and Caspin, and also Pickard studies to discuss inclusion in the elementary setting. And we found that teachers don't really have enough time or training and to effectively implement inclusion, and that most teachers want more techniques and strategies that can help them and their students be successful.
The next section is the differences in preparedness in general education teachers versus special education teachers. So we use Shoulders and Cray's study to review the difference and to determine if there was a difference in general ed teachers and special education teachers' preparedness. From this study, we found out that they both expressed the need to have a time to collaborate, to learn more about students' needs, and also to co-plan to figure out how instruction needs to be differentiated. And to successfully implement inclusion services, most of the information was regarding student engagement, that they needed to both be implementing strategies that promote student engagement was the main results from these 2 studies.
The pre-service teacher's perspective towards inclusion, in our studies that we reviewed, we found that teachers don't feel prepared to implement inclusion in the classroom, and that we would need more field work to be more equipped, whether that's before we enter the classroom on our own, or even if it's to have someone with us during our actual time in the classroom with the students.
So low incidence disabilities. So we reviewed literature from studies from Simpson and Singh, and students with the results said that students with low incidence disabilities require more careful and individualized planning, and a lot of that can be due to medical needs, adaptive, how they may have more specific needs, and also behavior modification. Students may need more specific and individualized planning due to the various supports that may be listed in a behavior intervention plan. And teachers would like more training in specific disability areas because many are not aware of the different adaptations and supports needed in the classroom, since these students that are considered to have low incidence disabilities have more specific needs, and sometimes significant needs as well.
Right, next are our methods for our study. So we talked about we're going to talk about the population, the instrument, and the data collection.
So School One, the population in School One, it's a rural school located in East Tennessee. It's a pre-K through 8th grade school, and it's serving around 800 students. It is a Title I school, and most students receive free or reduced lunch. And a high population of students at School One receive intervention to address academic deficits.
At School Two, it is also a rural school located in East Tennessee. It is a K-5 pre-K through 5th grade school, and there are about 560 students. It is not a Title I school, but it is within a Title I county, and a moderate number of students receive intervention provided by general education teachers.
So the instrument that was used for the purpose of the study is a voluntary survey sent through email. We sought to gain information regarding teachers' overall perception towards inclusion, and as well as specific supports needed to implement more effective inclusion. So here is an example of the survey. So we had a range of multiple choice questions, along with a scale question asking how prepared they feel, college courses, how well they feel prepared to implement inclusion services with low incidence disabilities, a checklist for all the areas they think they need more support in to implement effective inclusion, and then a couple open-ended questions regarding different types of supports and further information with a checklist of more training needs that they would like to have more opportunities in.
And Google Forms also provided us with graphs for each question, so we were able to record all of our data in one location, and it was easily accessible for us to visualize all of the answers that the teachers were providing. And it also was able to show us the answers for the open-ended questions and organized it on similarities within the school. And then for the results, we have the number of respondents, the overall findings, and the analysis of data regarding research question.
So participants in School One, the survey was emailed to 25 teachers, and we had 14 that response. So we had a 56% response rate. And there was 14 teachers, as stated earlier. 10 were general education teachers, and 4 were special education teachers.
At School Two, the survey was emailed to 28 teachers, and we had 16 that responded, which was a very similar 57% response rate. And from School Two, 15 were regular education teachers, and 1 was a special education teacher. And
And so results from school 1 and school 2. So here's some examples of graphs that we're going to go over. So this was revolving around how well do you feel prepared to implement inclusion services, and we have school 1 on the left and school 2 on the right. So school 1 is between a 3 and a 4 average to implement inclusion services, and school 2 is between a 3 and 4 as well, more on the 4 side.
And then as far as school 1 and school 2, believing that we should have more preparation in college courses. School 1 is on the left, and it's showing that the teachers feel, or they did have 2 or 3 courses. And on school 2, it is showing that most of them had 2 courses while in college, while there were few that had 1 or 4 plus. So they were very similar at both schools.
This one is asking what areas teachers need more training in, and we can see a trend here as well. School 1 has a lot in instructional strategies, and school 2 does as well. School 1, only 1 person said classroom management, whereas in school 2, you can see that 3 people. Behavior support is also a high need, and co-planning as well. And there was also a significant need for more knowledge regarding specific disability areas. So we can see in both of the schools, school 1 and 2, that there is a need for more specialized training in all the areas that we developed from previous studies.
Both schools would agree that they need more training from their district and from college going into the classroom. I think while you're in college, it shows that it helps you prepare better for the classroom, and then while you're in your district, it helps you specifically meet the needs of the students within your region.
So the analyzation of data regarding research. So we're using our research questions. Do elementary teachers feel prepared to implement effective inclusion? And based upon the results from this study, no, they do not feel adequately prepared to implement inclusion. And we're seeing some of the main factors that we revealed in previous studies in our literature review relating to co-planning, time, instructional strategies, preparation, and training on specific disability areas. So all of those needs are seen in this study as well.
And to conclude our research study, we have some recommendations and some similarities to our literature review.
So recommendations if this study were to be repeated or to further this study would be to include a larger number of participants. So more participants would be more input. Include a larger selection of schools. So this was using 2 rural schools. So if an urban school was used as well to see if there's a difference, allow for a comparison between urban and rural schools as well. And to also take teachers' concerns such as co-planning, knowledge about specific disabilities, instructional strategies to provide support. So all these areas that they're saying their needs are, so maybe to implement support in these areas of need that teachers say, and repeat the study and see if teachers feel more equipped to implement effective inclusion after having training and support in place.
And then for the similarities to our literature review, when we were doing our research, stats stated that the pre-service teachers needed more field work during college time, and we did find that most teachers would agree with this. And the DEASON stated that more students with disabilities are being included in the general education setting, and most participants in this study stated that students in their classrooms have disabilities, and that has increased. And the Smith study stated that teachers in early childhood setting, there are factors relating to class size, classroom supports, collaborative planning. And we also found within our study that most of the teachers would agree with this as well.
So we have included our references as well. So thank you for